Welcome to the Konnector 302 Temporary Redirect Show, giving you the opportunity to step away from the grind of working in your business and investing 30 minutes to listen to people who can help you work on it.
Perfect. Kia ora everybody, what's up? Robett, Hollis here, and welcome to the Powermoves podcast. Today I am with...
Glenn Marvin.
You got to get closer, sorry. Let's try that again.
Let's try that again, Glenn Marvin.
Perfect. And where are you from, Glenn?
I'm the founder of Konnector, which is a company that connects good businesses with ethical marketers.
Nice. Pull it close, you got to talk into it and speak well. Explain what that means.
So, let's do a little backstory then, eh?
Go for it.
So there is a whole lot of dodgy operators out there.
Got to bring it closer, mate. You got to get in there. Get in close. There you go. Perfect.
I can hear it really well.
In there.
Put the radio voice on. So there's a whole lot of mistrust out there when it comes to the world of digital, right?
It's
Digital
a Wild
marketing.
West.
It's a Wild West. The barrier to entry is really low. The capability out there is massively varied. So businesses are getting calls every other day going, hey, I can do a better job for less. It's a commoditized
Race
market.
to the bottom.
And it's a total race to the bottom. So what if there was an organisation out there that could consolidate some of the good operators out there that acted ethically, take that risk out for the businesses, make it a free service for business owners?
Yep. Who to trust?
Yeah.
Who's a good human?
Trust is a commodity.
How do you define who's a legit or not?
16 years in the business is a pretty good start.
Yeah, but like if it's like personalised matchmaking for you,
Yep.
It's your network that's legit, right?
Yep.
And how do you, I guess we'll rewind back because obviously you dabble in a bunch of these spaces and around. I guess before we get into that, mate, brought a whiskey.
Well, I heard you were dropping low, so I thought it was BYO, yeah.
I'm impressed. And you picked out the Aaron Malt 14?
Yep.
Single malt Scotch whiskey. Yesterday, Barry Shares from Microsoft came up and he brought whiskey as well. It's become this thing now where I can just flip and sit here and everyone's going to bring whiskey every day. It's flipping sweet.
I'm loving it.
You're quite a big whiskey drinker as well. Brent Norland says, Glenn, the definition of ethical. There you go.
There we go.
Very nice. He'll pay you later there,
He
Brent.
will.
So give us a quick rundown. How'd you get to this point? You were born and then what happened? 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Might have to take a little bit longer than that. So, actually, those first years has actually played a big part of where I am today because I had a little white boy living in South Auckland.
So where you grew up?
Yeah, Papakura.
No shit.
Kurahad.
Nice. Yeah. Kurahad. Yeah.
I was a little white boy that used to piss his pants in South Auckland.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine,
Well, you're a small kid.
I was a small kid, small little scrawny runt, used to
played-
piss his pants, get the crap beaten out of him by his little Maori bros.
Yeah.
And so for a long, long time, you had to, what do? You play the joker, you become very, very resilient, you become
Find your lane.
you become a chameleon because you
Yep.
you develop this whole skill set of becoming what you think other people want.
All survival too, right?
Yeah. And
What do I have to be to not get the bash?
so that was an amazing qualities to learn at a very, very young age to have a successful career in sales because
Interesting.
really all you needed to know was what do they want and I will become that, which is actually now, when I look back at
dangerous.
it, is
Yep.
very dangerous.
Yeah. I was just
Um,
thinking, like, if you're an adult and then doing that, it's probably someone you wouldn't really trust.
No. And so it took me a long time to get out of that mindset of if I just give you what you want, then you'll be happy and then you'll like me.
Got ya.
And there are people
That's bad sales.
all over it is just rife out there. That's the general sales tactic is I'm going to find out what you want, I'm going to find out how to push your buttons, and I will offer you what I think you need, not what I can necessarily deliver.
Got you.
So
it's reactive to them instead of proactive.
yeah,
to
absolutely. And people teach that shit.
It's pretty bad, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to do it as a kid to get by so you don't get the bash. It's another to morph and change
Yeah.
to sell shit badly.
So for me, that led to this whole journey of escapism and things like that. So
Where'd you grow up after that? So
grew up
South Auckland?
South Auckland. Mother brought us up pretty much by herself the whole way through. She sacrificed everything to get us into a good school, so we went to Auckland Grammar, so we had
Nice.
the upside there. Great school, wasn't exactly the traditional grammar boy.
Sports?
Sports, played soccer all the way, football for my daughter.
Yeah.
Football all the way through to high school, switched to rugby, loved rugby, did quite well at it, ruptured my spleen at school,
What, playing rugby?
playing rugby, kicked in the guts, Mount Roskill.
Oh, you were playing Mount Roscoe and they kick you?
Yeah.
Literally?
Kicked me in the guts.
Sprigged you to the stomach.
Woke up on the sideline, went to hospital, flatlined on the table.
Really?
Yeah.
How old are you?
How old was I then? 16, sixth form, which is year 12
Yeah.
in today's language.
You were just passed out, you didn't even remember?
Hardcore. No, it was,
Out.
didn't know.
And then woke up and you're like...
I got up after it had happened, went to the next line out. I was number 8, believe it or not, at that stage. Jumped
Yeah.
for a line out
You're like,
and then woke up on the sideline in pain.
shit.
So that was cool. Cool experience to go
And then
through.
you stopped playing sport?
Stopped playing sport for a couple of years, but then I moved to Australia and played rugby league without telling my parents.
Yep.
Loved that. And that was where sales really sort of kicked in for me, and I had such a varied life at that point. And that's where that whole escapism
Got ya.
sort of thing came in, because it was like, you know what, not traditional at school, tried going to university, dropped out after the first year.
What did you study?
I studied regional planning. Then I got into teachers college.
That's interesting. Yeah, go.
Dropped out of teachers college after 6 months because it was just as that whole sexo thing broke out in Christchurch.
What's the sexo thing?
There's a guy, he's been cleared, so I don't really want to
Okay.
go on.
There's some shit happened.
There was some shit happening in a daycare centre in Christchurch, and this
Well.
guy got locked up. Heaps of parents were accusing him of stuff, and he actually got convicted.
What's that proof?
Well, there was probably enough proof at the time, but they've since had a retrial
Got ya.
and all that sort of stuff. So I was a young male at in teachers college going into a school, getting treated like, and I was-
Yeah.
6 months of that, had enough. So I started travelling around New Zealand, found a couple of guys, what's this, 25 years ago, washing car windscreens at traffic lights.
Yeah. It's
Making-
entrepreneurship right there.
Making a shit ton of money,
Yeah.
and went out with them, saved enough money in 6 months washing car windscreens at traffic lights. You've got to take this in context. This had never been done in New Zealand before. They must have been one of the first people.
Entrepreneurs, man.
And saved up enough money to travel the world in 6 months. Went to Australia, did it over there for a few months.
Sick.
Went to Europe, and I travelled then just worked and travelled my way around the world in sales and hospitality jobs for the next 4.5 years.
Interesting. And then what?
And then I decided to grow up and come home. Ended up in South Africa. Had, that 4.5 years, you can imagine, early 90s in the UK and South
Gnarly.
Africa.
Tension.
Loads of drugs,
Yeah.
loads of booze. I was running clubs and nightclubs at that stage.
That's dangerous.
So
It's a bad world to play in.
in quite affluent areas, so you're going to some pretty out there parties and stuff like that. Got to South Africa, and I thought London was pretty hardcore. South Africa was the Wild West, and at that point it was 1995, just after apartheid had been knocked on the head. It was this new age. Everyone was just
Sending it.
partying, going.
It's like a new
nuts.
revolution, the new hippie movement.
Yep. And you're talking about 30 cents for a beer
Shit.
or
And-
a shot. So, and you're working in clubs, and it's a culture where actually, if you're working, you're drinking, because you're
what
part
you
of
do.
you're part of the crew. So I had a year in South Africa just messing with my mind, messing with my body, and then I just got to the point where it's
Like
just
stuff this next.
come home,
Everyone reaches the tipping point with it, eh?
Yeah.
It's always a thing.
back to New Zealand. Decided to grow up. My uncle was a cop. I'd always looked up to him, and I thought, yep, now's the time.
What, to become a cop?
Yep. So I joined the police.
Did you actually?
I was in the police force for 7 years.
Bullshit.
4 years in South Auckland. First station was Rewa, then Kapukura.
Constable. Ben.
Constable Marvin.
That's awesome.
Good afternoon, Constable Marvin.
Actually,
Actually. Yep.
that's classic. So you became a cop.
And that was travelling, and that 7 years in the police force were probably the two best educational experiences for business.
Yeah. Why,
I've ever
relationships?
had. Relationships, being able to walk into situations, assess them instantaneously, judge how you need to react,
Interesting.
communicate with others, negotiate, get them to see your point of view, ask for help.
You're in the middle for like, yep.
Know when not to back down.
Interesting.
And there's 2 minutes leading into not even starting a business career.
Give me the business career in 2 minutes.
Left the police, slightly disillusioned, wanted to change the world and help, but realised that you're just really picking up the pieces. Got into sales again, and then pretty quickly with all of that worldly experience, moved into management positions. Worked for as a turnaround specialist for a private equity firm, taking changes, companies through organisational change and then flogging them off for a decent profit. And in that process, I fell in love with. That was in the early 2000s when the digital marketing space was just, Google was really just coming to the floor, and
search was a thing.
Search was this amazing thing where, I was just a dumb boy from South Auckland that had, come out of the police, but I'd found this thing that could transform sales in an organisation called online marketing.
There wasn't even a word then.
People weren't doing it.
No.
And I was like, God, if you can get them on Google, and people are starting to look for it now, it costs nothing.
Yeah. Because it started cheap, right? It
started so cheap.
That's the thing. It started super cheap.
Well, then that career was pretty cool. Earning great money, doing great things, working with great people. But it's like Formula One racing. You burn out pretty quick, because if you're not performing, then you're gone.
Yeah.
So it's either you become a thoroughbred or you're gone. So 4 or 5 years doing that led to this whole fascination and just love of this whole digital space.
Yeah.
Because I could see how it was transforming business and the opportunities, and it changed so rapidly, and it's still changing so rapidly. So for me, that was it. I was like, forget this whole management thing. I just fell in love with the marketing piece, and as it turns out, you end up, once you're a natural sort of manager and a leader, you end up falling into those roles anyway. So I got into the digital space and ended up running sales teams in there, and then companies in that. So came on board as a sales director for Surefire Search. We grew a new division of that from, I think when I came on board, they had two staff in that division. We grew it to 35 in 25 in that division, 35 overall in about 3 years.
Damn.
And sold it to an American company. I went as part of that as key man risk, which is where an integral part of the business needs to go with it as part of the sale.
Linchpin.
Yep. And then ended up hiring another 100 staff over the next 14 months.
Based in Auckland?
Auckland. We took a whole floor in the ASB Tower.
Really?
The old ASB Tower. And set up a whole new operating system there where we're supporting Australia, New Zealand in regards to account
management, it's tech, it's marketing, it's online.
Pretty much setting up a call centre, the whole thing. So it was taking all of that experience and just melding it into this whole, organisational change, recruitment, sales, account management, risk management, all bundled into this one sort of learning experience. But usual story, when a lot of companies come into New Zealand, they try and do it their way, butting heads and all
culture,
that.
context.
I lasted 14 months and
Died.
damn near wanted to commit suicide.
Shit. And then you got out?
Got out of that and negotiated my way back in as one of the equity partners in Surefire Search.
Yeah.
And that was about 3 years ago. We pretty much doubled that again in a couple of years, 3 years. And then this year we launched Konnector.
And is that owned by Surefire?
Well, same owners.
Just new business.
Just new business.
And what's the difference between that and this?
One's an agency, one's an unagency, so to speak.
Explain that.
I was very, very passionate about not having an agency look, feel, structure, or attitude, because
you feel the market's changing.
The market's changed. The market doesn't want another agency,
yeah.
And this isn't what
for digital marketing for this. Yeah,
yeah. So Konnector isn't an agency at all. It is that.
Is it bespoke curation through your Rolodex?
Yeah, because what we do, we're not doing the execution. We're helping. We're taking risk.
How do you get paid? How do you make money?
We get paid completely transparent with all of our clients that come through it. We get 15% of any of the management fees.
Got ya.
Not the media, just the management fees, because we're taking risk and cost out of the acquisition process for those agencies as well.
Totally.
And those strategists. So we've got strategy advisors, we've got marketing experts, and we've also got a reporting platform.
But then is it basically a curated Rolodex of yours, of everyone that plays in the space, basically, and then you act as the conduit?
Of a limited number. And I'll be really, really clear, just because we are pitching ourselves as a company that can introduce you to ethical digital marketers, just because somebody isn't on our books, it doesn't mean they're not good.
Got ya.
Really clear on that, because the last thing I want is for people to start going, oh, okay, oh, these guys aren't working with Konnector, they must be dodgy. That's not the case. There are hundreds of really, really good operators out there.
Yeah.
But the reality is you can only grow and feed and scale a certain amount at a time, and it's not fair to that network to overpromise and underdeliver when it comes to providing them opportunities.
So how do you obviously live and breathe in this sort of social digital age that we're all in and consuming, and you create content, you've got a community, you've got a network. What do you think of the state of the networks right now in terms of social for business in New Zealand?
Man, if you're not playing in that space, you're mad. You're mad. And I'd say that is for 90% of businesses. So we estimated that in 2017, LinkedIn alone led to around 200K's worth of business acquisition for Surefire.
Just through LinkedIn? Just
through LinkedIn and the
networks. Is that as people
and the
posting, or is
relationships.
it business advertising?
That is from changing a strategy of advertising as a business to building personal relationships and promoting a personal brand.
Yep.
Right? People aren't buying Surefire. People are buying Glenn Marvin or Mark Skeets or Jeremy Templer.
They see them, they know them, they like them, they trust them, they connect, they do business. Done.
Yeah. Which, again, brings that full circle to the whole Konnector model. Is if somebody wants to come, I'm quite open. In fact, there is a whole heap of shit that I don't know, and I'm not going to play in a space that I don't know.
Yeah.
And
so what do you know?
I know digital strategy, I know search engine optimization, I know paid search at a high level, and it might sound arrogant, but not on the execution piece. I pay people to do that shit, right? But I know what works.
The thinking.
I know who works, and I know what a good operator looks like, and I know how to educate people and educate the market. And I'm absolutely passionate around positively shutting out the dodgy pricks, rather than finger pointing and getting into name calling and calling people out and just...
Did someone burn you?
No.
Because it's a very big driver of yours. Is the word ethical I just find interesting, right? Because it's like, what was I was
part of the problem.
But do you get frustrated because you've seen... Yeah.
And I was part of that.
It's like if someone in banking who goes to a not-in-profit.
Yep.
They've seen that side. So that guy Sam Stubbs from Simplicity.
Yep.
Worked in it, got it, stuff this, gets out, tries to build something to not make up for the sins, but to try and make right.
I was part of the problem. And here's the deal, right? Virtually every single agency out there that has got a growth strategy is the mentality is, and I need to choose my words carefully here, I shouldn't say virtually every, I'll say it's very, very common for a digital agency or full service agency to focus on growth. And if you are acquiring more clients than you're losing, then you're winning. And that's the wrong attitude to have.
Well, that's their game, right?
Yeah.
Net one done next.
Yep. And then how are they incentivizing? How are they getting that growth? They're hiring more business development managers or salespeople. How are those people incentivized? By acquisition.
So it's driving the wrong thing. It's like advertisers for newspapers.
Yeah. Right. So.
But the sales commission is driven on bring it to the platform.
I used to harass my sales guys.
Pull it closer, sorry.
I used to absolutely harass my sales guys week in, week out. What are your numbers? What are your numbers? Show me your pipeline. Wham, 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 wham. And it's all about hitting your number, not about what are the outcomes that your clients are getting. So what is our retention like in regards to those staff? So let's make
that. Yeah, interesting.
Right? And that's the life of that's the digital agency world, and that's why people get frustrated and burned and pissed off, because it's great. We're what they're doing is we traditionally we've oversold and underdelivered. It's all about getting them, and it's salespeople selling a solution that is the box that agency sells, which isn't necessarily
what they need.
And it's about volume of turnover. So I'm completely incentivized to make you spend more than you need.
Yeah. It's in your best interest.
Yeah.
It's like the sales, it's like the people that work in jewelry shops that are A, on commission, or B, on a salary.
Yeah.
If it's salary, it's genuine.
Yep.
If it's commission, they're selling you flipping whatever, because it's just, you got to think about it from their side. So I kind of think about it with that landscape, say within the front side businesses, going from a reactive project mentality to a proactive partnership mentality.
Yeah.
And the switch, and this is what I've been working on for the last 2 years, is okay. Now, what does in the business operate like? Do you want 100 people doing 1 million things? No. It's like you're just a churn shop of just like cool, you're doing good stuff, but that's not. See, I'm probably similar to you in terms of my thinking, where I believe, say within the media landscape, if 1 million monkeys are out there running around with cameras and GoPros and iMovies and shit, everyone's a production company, everyone's doing content, everyone's on social, everyone's on digital. It's not about that. It's about the thinking. It's about the strategy. It's about the relationships. It's about the why. It's about the creativity. It's about the brand. It's about the ongoing relationships. That's the stuff which I think a lot of these crew in the lane that I'm involved with that business is definitely about. And I think it's dangerous, right? Because what happens is, exactly to your point around, they're incentivized for the wrong things. If you're project based, it's just like numbers, anything through the door. Opposed to like, no, these are good humans I want to work with. These are great partnerships, and we can actually have value. So I have this thing around, one of my big three is consistency over campaigns.
Yep.
It's about, instead of the 1 day a year where you have this event or this thing, it becomes about what do you do for the 364.
Yeah,
I've been real big on it at that lately.
And that exact attitude is a thing that led to Konnector being born, to be honest, because for me, it's about doing good things with good people.
But that's the I don't know if it's a danger, but is that weird because it's your definition of good and your definition of ethical? Like, is it a risk? But people know your brand, right? So I guess it's not, because people know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so basically from the outside, it's like, hey, your shit for 15%, I flip and get good people done. So then I don't need to worry about bullshit.
The risk. The risk is, as you scale it, can you deliver? Because as soon as you stop delivering around doing good things with good people, right? As soon as you're not getting the results, or somebody has a terrible experience with somebody that you've recommended, there goes, bang, there's another.
Well, it's your name, right?
There's another knock in your brand.
And it's happened before, like with been involved with stuff, and someone's like, yo man, this guy's the shit, blah blah blah, I fully back for him, blah blah blah, and it rolls out and you're like, dude, the fuck, what?
Yeah.
Like, you don't listen again. You're like, okay, cool, bro, all right.
Yeah. So for the last few years, while we were scaling Surefire again, we would be walking away from a shit ton more opportunities than we were taking on. And
no's the new yes.
Yeah. And that had, double impact. We had a lot of those no's that weren't prepared to spend the money, turn around in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and go, actually, we're prepared to spend that now, and we'll do it the right way because we've been burned again. Or on the flip side,
every time
I was turning around and saying, well, hey, look, here's 2 or 3 people that I trust that you can go and talk to that may be able to work at the level that you're prepared to. And
what type of services are they after? Like, so I'm selling my whiskies, and I need a whole bunch of stuff. I come talk to you.
Surefire is very, very specific in its niche, and it's paid search, so AdWords, Bing and all that, search engine optimization and analytics, so understanding the data behind it. Because unless you understand the data behind it, how are you going to actually run an effective campaign?
Well, it's the connection point for what's the recommendations and real-time insights that give you future creative briefs to actually have value, right?
Yep.
Got it.
So for me, the beauty of all of that is we were just doing what we loved.
Well, you've just put a business around what you do naturally.
Yeah.
And you see the upside of, good humans working with other good humans. You click a ticket, you get a good business, they get a good product, done.
Totally. And my whole life now revolves around, and little business opportunities and side hustles and gigs that it's just doing shit that I love.
Yeah.
We've got a little travel company. My wife sells amazing stuff online, and I help do the marketing for that, and that's grown. I think probably 15-fold in the last 3 years.
So
She's been away for the last 2 weeks. It is driving me nuts because we're still bagging shit up in our garage. But it's awesome because we're doing stuff that we love. She's just been, she's been away. We 4 years ago started taking our kids away on these cool holidays where, we're a blended family. I'm a massive believer in failure. I fucked up my first marriage, so I learned from that, get it right the second time. Mm-hmm. Still working on that, as you do. But one of these ideas that came around it is this was our first big overseas holiday as a family. What's the deal? What's going to happen? Some of the kids are going to want to do this, the others are going to want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to bitch and moan my way around Thailand for 3 weeks. So I went, well, let's just not tell them where we're going or what we're doing. And I turned the holiday into an experience. So it was based
surprise
on, the TV show, The Amazing Race.
Yep.
And so they get an envelope.
That's pretty cool.
Bang, open the envelope. Here's your next challenge. And whoever opens the envelope is in charge of the race. And they get to make and this is a massive on this, is teaching children business skills, resilience, and things, real life practical shit that is going to give them that step up once they leave school. Because for me, I saw so many people that had, this is just, I'm biased from my experience, so many people that had university education that got into the real world and failed miserably and were terribly unhappy, and they went back to a job that wasn't even related to what they studied. And they lacked a whole lot of social skills, a lack of resilience, a lack of entrepreneurial skills, and so many of them are doing menial jobs that they don't like because...
That's when it sucks.
Yeah. So these kids, massive on it. I've got beehives. We've got a little honey business as well. The kids come to the markets with us, and they're on commission only.
Get their hustle on.
Get your hustle on. You don't get a cent if you sit there like a miserable little sod and don't talk to anyone. But here's the deal. You look somebody in the eye and you say hello to them, everybody else has to shut up, and you get your opportunity to talk to them.
Yeah.
And you get a percentage of whatever that sale is, and they have their little marker.
This is awesome.
And by the end of the day, they're hustling, man. They're elbowing each other out of the way. I've got that one. Or, they see someone coming down, and they're calling dibs before they even get to the store.
What, with like embedding or teaching your children, how old are they?
Youngest is now just turned 12.
Okay.
Got a 14-year-old daughter as well, and twin girls that are just about to turn 16.
Got you. So it's really in that
it's
thing.
Real.
So what is the main driver that's made you have this, I guess, take on growing your kids up with that entrepreneurial sort of hustle thing? Like what lessons do you want them to come out of it when they go into the real world the same way you had yours? Because not many parents do that with their kids.
Ironically, I just want them to be happy.
And learn some shit.
But the thing is this will give them skills to be able to be happy. Yeah. Because they learn how to be resilient, and they learn that...
And they say, no. Next.
Yeah. Life does this to you. Deal with it. Make decisions. Take some responsibility. Take a leadership role that empower yourself to make decisions.
It's pretty cool to do for your kids. It's cool.
And they are all very, very cool kids. Like any kids, frustrating as hell at times. And you're going to find that out, bro.
Yeah, I know. Am I what? That's cool, man. And so it's such a random journey. But then you've found your sweet spot in your niche. But that's true for you, right?
Yeah, man. I love it. We're making good coin, doing stuff we love. I'm doing a whole heap of random stuff.
Do you find... You meet a lot of people who are your age that are doing stuff they hate, and they have this regret that you can see internally that they don't really address, but they like to hang out with you because they see the freedom and the stoke that you get doing what you like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll modify that slightly.
Yep, go.
I see a whole heap of people my age that pretend that they like doing what they're doing.
And you can tell they don't.
Yeah.
See, that's what's funny. So I call it like... this percentage of regret. So my kind of thing is, I think I could have got to where I am now 3 years quicker if I didn't have so much like ego and hype in my early 20s. So I've got a 10% of, say if it was 27 to 30, that's only 3 years, 30 out of 30, 10%. So I go 10% regret that I can play catch up with over efficiency in the next 10 years at 1% a year, so I can get back. So if I'm 40, I could feel like I'm back on track. But what I get though is I'll meet 40 or 50-year-olds who've got 20 or 30 years of regret, still stuck in it, and then I look at their percent, I'm like, shit, you're like at like 50% of your existence has been doing this thing that you hate, whatever. And I just think of it such a loss that they can't really make up, because you hit 50 and then you see freedom that you don't have because you don't make the move as the right thing. It's like, I understand you've got securities and families and mortgages and whatever, but I find it interesting because you waking up doing every day what you're doing and you're surviving and having fun doing what you do. Your age bracket, what percentage of people your age in your world do you see that act like they like it, but you know they don't?
I would say a very, very large percentage.
Like, would it be like 75?
Over 70.
Yeah,
Over 70.
Isn't it that funny? And I've asked a couple of people about this, like not on here, but actually just asking, like, dude, you wake up and get stoked for your stuff. Like, if I get an elevator on a Monday and someone's like, back on the grind, I'm like, all right, man, cool, good chat.
Yeah.
Like, like on holiday, I like to work.
Yeah.
Like I
enjoy.
enjoy.
Next week, I've booked a call with a client.
But it's weird because some people can just walk out of work and tap out and done. I think if you love the game of business, it never switches off.
Yeah. So I think there are two other things for me that have had a massive impact on probably my psyche of where I am today. One of them was, and I have to give big raps to an old schoolmate of mine called Wade Jackson.
Okay.
Have you heard of? Yeah. And he runs this program called the Jolt program.
I've heard of it.
Jolt program, for me, I was in a shit space, right? It was when I was just coming out of that whole VC world.
Got you.
Burnt out massively, and I love doing the digital marketing piece and things like that. But it's like any course that you do, right? There is a whole lot of stuff in it, but there are a couple of things that just absolutely stick with you.
Yep.
And for him, for me, there was this one exercise that he took us through, and it was really defining. He said, forget the job, forget the industry, forget the role. What is just the one thing that makes you tick, that you just want to do every single day of your life? And it could be snowboarding, it could be whatever, and things like that. But for me, it wasn't even industry related. It wasn't even digital, and I've got it written down, and it's in my wallet. And every time I'm having a bad day, I pull it out and I look at it. And really, the only thing I want to do, the only thing that makes me happy, is it making a positive difference in somebody else's life every single day.
You've written that down.
Yep.
Interesting.
And so it doesn't matter if I'm having, if we've had a shit day, we've lost a client, something like that, things like that, and I'm in a bad space, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call a client, or I'll call somebody and I'll tell them how much of an awesome job that they're doing, or just pay somebody a compliment, or be in the restaurant and give a decent tip and tell the waiter, just something that's going to make a positive impact. And, mental health is a big thing for me.
Interesting.
I think that's also an area where so many people are lacking the maturity to openly address it.
We were talking with Barry Shears, the managing director of Microsoft, yesterday. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this.
Yep. It's
really interesting. Or I was saying, like mental health will be the new kind of physical and thing health.
Oh, it's huge. And so,
but you seem very, not calm, but very like contently focused.
Yep, I am now.
Yeah. No, totally. But like it's kind of like a. And I can get it because I'm, IQ dumb as shit, but EQ's pretty good. Like it's very kind of like focused, but know who you're about, what you represent, what you're here to do, what your thing is, and it's not often that you get to see that in others.
And I have got absolute clarity on what I want to do and what makes me happy.
Yeah, which I would say 90% of people don't.
Yeah, and what I love about my sort of personal statement about that is it's not actually tied to a specific industry.
Yeah,
I could walk away from search and digital tomorrow if I found something else.
Yeah,
that ticked my boxes. as long as it was making a positive impact in other people's lives.
And that's the hook.
Yeah. And that's probably why, if I take a step back, that's probably why I've gone down the ethical route.
Yeah.
Because it is having a positive impact in those
That's just an
people's
interesting
lives.
pick of a word. Because in a world where it's not that, to then say that, but then as your own personal brand, where the business model is purely, it's predicated on your success through your relationships, it's pretty transparent.
Yeah. And that's why I'm open about it being 15%.
Fair enough.
Right. How many agencies do we know out there that have got margin on margin on margin?
Well, the inside-outside cut, if you start looking into the whole bunch of the back-end cashies between a whole bunch of those agencies is interesting. And I've never seen it personally. I've got friends who run either agencies or have been in this or have been on a brand side that have actually seen how it works. And I'm like, holy shit, that happens? He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think any business owner or entrepreneur or somebody that is going into, whether it's management or just wanting to deal with stress, is start running and running far.
Well, someone was saying, the one rule of the jungle, when you wake up in the morning, start running. Because either you're going to be running after something to survive or someone's coming after you.
So trail running and...
Oh, you're saying actual running?
Actual running.
Oh, shit. I thought you meant just
No.
metaphorically.
No.
Let's go back again. What did you say?
Actual trail running.
That.
Forget the road running, bro. Road running...
I did my marathon. I'm happy. I'll never run again. That shit was stuffed up.
No. So,
you into it?
Oh, dude. I just got back from...
This is your thing.
This is my thing. This is the thing. This is where your lights... Eyes lighting up.
You listen to music when you go?
Yeah, sometimes.
If you got a Kathmandu water backpack?
Pick a size. I got a 10 litre, 20 litre, 30 litre.
Do you actually? And so you just hit the trail and do you go solo?
Sometimes I go solo, sometimes with friends. It's great doing events.
Why? Why nature, not road?
It's a whole different psyche, right? If you're running on the road, you're interested in pace. No, it's completely the opposite. If you're a road runner...
this is interesting.
Forgive me, road runners.
Yeah.
If you're a road runner...
Well, they're crazy too.
Yeah. You are so focused on speed and pace and finishing within a certain time and getting a PB for this. And, if you do a half marathon or a marathon and you got somebody that's just in front of you or falls over or something like that, it's almost like this little, I'm past another one.
Got ya.
It's ultra competitive and it's about
racing.
It's about racing other people. The trail running community is completely different. It's completely different.
It's like
blew me away.
In snowboarding, it'd be the snowpark riders or the triple cone riders. So the snowpark riders, you'd have just the cool kids in the park doing the cool stuff, and it's like the scene. And the triple cone riders, the hippies who just go shred and just smoke a bowl and just do some freshies, But that was the thing. But there was a clear differential between or in the earlier days it was pipe jocks of they're the half pipe riders. They can't jib or jump, but they just do half pipe stuff. But there was a very clear segmentation of it. So I'm imagining the communities in that world are probably really similar, right?
Yeah, and so you are. Tell me this, right? Those that, and you are there, those that are with the absolute top of the game,
yeah,
right, all have very, very similar traits in regards to sort of type of background, life experience, and some random shit that has happened to them.
Very sporadic, yeah, probably, yeah, that's probably fair. But the great ones that lasted or that have lasted, their soul sits with the triple cone riders, where it was kind of similar to feel like my passion for the outdoors and the escapism and the things I'd just go do, we'd call them soul shred laps. So you just go soul shredding. And it was just like you just doing no photos, no cameras, no bullshit, no sponsors, no photos, just flipping nothing, just sending it. And those that had the passion for that definitely shifted more towards that side of it because the soul that they got out of it from that type of snowboarding was more real.
Yeah.
Opposed to, not that the park didn't, but it was more not that it was manufactured or human created. It was natural versus man-made, I guess.
So when you were out there with those guys,
yeah,
you would find, tell me, would you find that within 10 minutes of being out there with them or hanging out with them, you're having the most random personal conversations and just sharing shit that you wouldn't share with the other?
It was probably more pure.
Yep.
Just in the
Open.
terms open would probably be the word.
Yeah.
Open would probably be the word. Like I think I was lucky enough. I was riding for West Beach at the time, and I was living in Canada. And there was John Cartwright and Dave Short, who were like two top dogs, and they lived in the apartment. We go shred together, and they're like this would be the equivalent of like if you're into tennis, you flipping going to play with flipping Federer or something for the backcountry, right? Yeah. And I remember first run into it, like you're there as like crew, and then they just go off, and then you're trying to catch up, and you're like, holy shit, and it becomes this like, full experience because the level was there, and then you get down, your mind's blown. I still remember this one, like John Cartwright just hit up this thing. It was funny because he visually, I still remember it, this is like over 10 years ago, hit this thing, he goes front 3 tail tap over this tree, and it was like natural, no warning, no present, just flipping went and did it. But I think the relationships, I don't know, it's tough because you'd have your friend crew, but then the type of, I think there'd be more pure experiences going the other way. I get it.
And it's exactly the same in trail running. I've just got back from, I did a race down in the South Island, 330 Ks from...
What? Oh, that's right, the flipping crutches. I've been wanting to talk about this.
Mount Cook to Oamaru.
Okay, so just quickly talk... the photo, for those who didn't see it, is basically you going to the finish line on flipping crutches. Finishing off crutches. So you finished the whole thing?
Yeah.
On crutches?
Well, I didn't start it on crutches.
No, obviously, but like, at what point, how many Ks into it did that hit?
So I injured myself with about 190 Ks to go.
And then when did the crutches kick in?
The crutches only kicked in for the last day, it was only 28, 30 Ks.
So you did 30 Ks on the last day, after how many days? 3 days?
This was the 7th day.
7th day?
Yeah.
So it's a 7-day race?
7-day race, 330 Ks.
Holy shit, dude. And so you did the last day with 30 Ks with crutches. Far out. Well, how'd you injure yourself? Ankle?
Yeah, it was one of the tendons in my, let's say, shin.
I saw that photo, look insane.
Yeah, but...
Why'd you do that shit? That seems flipping nuts. You're a stubborn bastard.
Right? And when you grow up like you, right, ultra competitive, right?
You do it.
It starts off being competitive against other people. And then it morphs into...
You versus you.
You versus you. And then, you know what, if you're snowboarding, how many times can you do one trick? Well, you know what, I'm over that. I want to try something else. I want to go freestyle.
The greatest always are like that, you versus you.
Yeah. So it took me, and again, this was that whole sort of journey of discovery I went on, from this whole escapism to understanding what really made me happy.
Yeah.
And part of that is actually running towards fear.
Okay.
And that's not literally running.
No.
But shit that scares you and shit that you just don't know if you can do.
And just keep going till you actually do it.
Yeah.
And then you know your limit.
And if you don't, you've still probably done something that 99.9% of people will never have accomplished anyway.
I get that.
And I do. I know.
So that was it. It was you versus you. You're like, stuff it, I got this.
Yeah. No, it's just very, very lucky also with the people that I had around me. There was, my wife would probably disagree because I cry at some TV adverts if they're really, really soppy.
Dude, have you seen... Sorry, I'll jump back to an ad that I saw. Okay.
I'm pretty hard-ass in a lot of the events that I go to. I've got a very, very busy life. I don't train anywhere
near what you should.
Near what I should. But I just balls it out and do it because I'm mentally tough.
Yep. That's what I did with my marathon.
But there was 2 occasions in that last race, and it was the longest I'd ever run, the biggest event that I'd ever done. End of day 5, everything was just falling to pieces. I was broken. I actually had this moment where I was having to crawl down a hill backwards because I couldn't go forwards downhill because I was in so much pain because of the way that I was moving my foot. So I crawled down this hill backwards, and then something just sort of mentally went a little bit loopy inside, and I made it up to this gate, and there were a couple of people in front of me, and I just started... Have you seen that Forrest Gump? And there's that scene in Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan comes and joins them on the shrimp boat, and they go out into that... They go out into that storm, and Lieutenant Dan, he's on there, and he's like, oh yeah, God! Come on!
Just sending it,
And I just took off running with this fucked up leg, and I ran for probably about 4 Ks over this mental terrain.
Just sending
it, yelling and screaming and laughing as I was running past people. just emotionally completely messed up.
Lost.
Got back to the tent, and one of my tent mates sort of looked at me and went, "Are you all right?" And I just burst into tears, sat down and said, "I can't fucking do this."
Tapped.
Absolutely, I left every last ounce of energy on the floor, and then I got up the next morning and did it all again.
When I was, I think it was like 13 or 14 at high school, I wasn't a runner. And then they had this thing we had to do how many laps you could do in a certain time frame. It was something that one of the guys, the PE teacher, had done. And I was behind, like, I wasn't winning. But I was like, stuff it. I mean, I'm young. I'll just run as fast as I can, as long as I can, until I literally just pass out or just whatever, right? And so it was the 400-meter track, and I don't know what thing it was either. And I just started, like, flipping sprinting. And then I just got into a rhythm, and I was just penning it. And I was like, stuff, I'll just keep going. And I just went, I only probably lasted it, like, I thought I was probably going really fast, but I probably, it's always been that when you're so physically tapped, but mentally you think you're still on, it's like you're still going. That's interesting.
I love those sort of challenges. I had a thing just before I left that American company where one of the staff was raising money to go to the world champs for water polo.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I'm in training, why don't I make a bit of a joke about it? And we're in the ASB Tower, now the council building. And I said, well, why don't I do the stairs? And I'll do, for every dollar that somebody donates,
you run a flight.
I'll do a flight. $704 later.
And you're like, and so the stubbornness gets in, like, stuff it, I'll keep going.
I'm just going to keep on going.
Yeah.
And then they just thought,
oh, he'll stop.
He'll stop. We'll just keep on chucking in another $10 here, another $10, another $10. So it was like 14,000 steps.
That's so classic.
And
you're stubborn. I like
the money ran out.
Because everyone was like, and we're done.
Yeah, you tapped us out.
On a trip, switch topics a bit, I'm kind of conscious of time a little bit, is you had this little, not a rant or this little thing, but you're hot on this diversity thing. Let's go there for a second. Go.
Okay.
What's your take or not take or?
Diversity in its own right is divisive.
Agreed.
Okay, so I am a massive advocate for inclusivity, not diversity. And
I love that word.
Here's the deal, right? As soon as you start picking people, choosing people, treating people differently because of their age, sex, whatever, whatever, then you run the risk of it having a massive negative impact on your organisation.
Yep.
I completely get the need for diversity, but you need to do it inclusively.
So that's the approach to fix it. Do you think there's an issue with how it physically is?
Today?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And
there is a massive problem with gender bias. There is massive internal bias issues with corporate or in New Zealand, full stop.
Because
it's a generational thing for me. I think we need to have there is a lot of problems in New Zealand that because of the way, we're I want it now society.
Yeah.
The expectation is if you don't change it, I'm going to complain and I'm going to bitch and I'm going to approach it in a negative manner. I'm just going to the squeaky wheel.
Because I do you think so? My kind of take on it was I don't think that any business, and I said this in a post, I got flipping ripped, and it was they took it out of context a little bit, and I said, no brand has the ability or right to talk about diversity if 90% of its board is a bunch of old rich white dudes. Like I said that, right? The thing was, you can't tell me that there's total diverse thinking in that group. No. If you can, I'll swallow eggs, I'm wrong, stuff me, I'm off it. 100%. But can you genuinely say that that's a split of diverse thinking?
No. And they're naturally attracted to those of like minds.
But and it was out of context because it was very like confronting. But I was just saying, if you can tell me that that's a diverse range of thinking, flipping, I'm wrong, stuff me.
So I'm all for giving people opportunity, right? And what and
the talent's there for it.
My
especially women.
My theory on this is, or to use your terminology, my internal thesis.
Yep.
Is that we should be looking at this as a generational approach. And I'll use the example of drink driving.
Continue.
Right? So 70s, 80s, early 90s, it was very, very common for people to drink drive. We had a fantastic approach from government, from advertising. We had this.
It's amazing.
And it's just, the change
Behaviour change, yep.
in attitude stemmed not from my age group, not from the 40, 50-year-olds of when we were that age. It came from the youth of today being exposed to a different attitude, a different message, and it changed their perception of drink driving. This still happens, right? But now, right, I can remember back in the day, we would phone each other up on a Sunday morning and go, "Did you make it home, bro?" Right? Yeah, sweet. Now, you're getting in the car, you're a dick, right? You're an absolute drop.
But that whole "if you're a bloody idiot" was solid.
Yeah. So
it worked.
Yeah. So we need to approach diversity as with a generational mindset. Think Asian business.
It's interesting. So how would you...
So you start young. Start talking about the inclusivity as an attitude, as a da-da-da-da, where, we start removing some of the barriers. We incentivize some of those young people, and we put programs in place for young women, young Māori, young Pacific Islanders, whatever. Give them, yes, I absolutely think that there should be scholarships and those sorts of things in place to give them the opportunity to prove themselves.
It'd be cool. You know what would be cool?
Don't hire them because they are.
You know what could potentially switch at the other side? Imagine if it made it mandatory for everyone to have a quota of one shadow board member that changed every time, because you're not going to get that same type of person, and then to have them in the room there, they would feel weird. Like they would actually feel awkward. I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but if you don't go to the board, if you go to the surroundings, say if you did actually say, "Hey, let's have a thing. It's mandatory. We've subscribe into this thing where we have a shadow board of each time. It's someone in the thing that could be anyone. They'll get different sort of ways of thinking. They'll be like, shit, well, we're getting sporadic different people, points of view that come to us in the shadow. Why isn't the board looking like that?" So then you don't attack the board, you actually attack, or you open up that thing, and then you could probably sell it on they get the education, they get blah, 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 Yeah. It's interesting.
But,
shadow boards could be a way to start.
Youth is the future.
Yeah.
Right? Of the mindset. We need to pretty much write my generation and older off.
But I think I'd like to say there's hope, because there's people that have the mental mindset of the youth, but there's the majority of them. If you know that 75% of them, majority of them are in that space.
Yeah.
So I'm at a probably different zone where it feels like we are starting to get to the table. Like the rooms that I'm involved with now, the crew that I'm sort of hanging, like it's flipping some hitters and smart people, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like I'm kind of starting in that world. But the thing is, in the next 5-10 years, in 10 years, it'll probably be all the young homies that are rolling.
Oh, totally. But
within a decade. Right? So you're actually probably right. It's probably a generational thing.
If we focus on the high school kids of today when it comes to boardroom politics, right? Who are their parents?
Yeah.
Right? I listen to my kids' attitudes. I look at what they do, and it influences my behaviour as well.
Yeah.
So if we are creating environments for those children to shadow boards,
whatever,
all of those sorts of things, and their parents are CEOs, chairmen, board members, directors, business leaders, and they see how their children are growing and acting and behaving, and the inclusive nature that they have. And I think the youth of today have got an amazing capability around inclusiveness.
Agreed.
Then it will impact, so when I say write us off, it's don't invest money trying to change me, change the youth, the youth will change us.
Flipping solid. On that note, Glenn, Marvin, it's been good chats, man.
Yeah,
I'd actually forgot that you'd done the run thing for some reason. I was like, and then I was like, holy shit, that's right. Because I was like, man, I want to talk to you about that. If people want to hear more about, or find out more about Konnector and what you're doing for your new business, where can they go to? What can they do? Give us a little spiel. Glenn, where can we go?
Look me up on LinkedIn, Glenn Marvin, or go to konnector.co.nz. That's Konnector with a K.
With a K. On that note, thanks so much. Appreciate the whiskey. This has been really good whiskey, by the way. And Aaron 40, when you sent me the, so for those that don't know, Glenn sent me a text earlier and was like, hey, which one do you want? And you had a Signet. You had a Glenmorangie Signet, which is epic, by the way.
Yeah, man.
You
and
had
a Frog 18.
A Frog 18. I went for this one because I haven't had this in 3 years. And so I'm liking the fact this is becoming a theme where we're sitting here and people are bringing the whiskies in and actually asking. So I got a Thompson whiskey yesterday. Had a bit of this today. It's been solid.
Oh, a little plug as well. I'm kicking off my Work for Whiskey program.
Oh, I did say. I actually really thought this was really cool too. So yeah. So
in May.
Okay.
So I work. We're gonna roll it out now. We're gonna actually expand it. I'm gonna work with up to 10 businesses.
Basically, give you whiskey and you'll
give me a bottle of whiskey, and I'll work with you on your digital strategy. First 4 calls over 4 weeks. First call is to sort out the strategy, look at some of the things that you're doing. Next 3 calls, I'm just going to literally punch you in the face until you execute. Because unless you execute, it's just advice.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole idea of Work for Whiskey is I'm gonna talk to you about what you need to do, force you to do it, and once you've done it, you'll see value in actually executing and getting shit done. And then, if you get anything out of it, you buy me a bottle of whiskey. And the more you get out of it...
Oh, so you get the whiskey at the end?
At the end. You don't have to give me anything. If you think that my
That's
advice
cool.
is worth shit,
that's cool.
You don't buy me anything.
And, I don't know if you've got a plug with that, but I hope they go to Sam Sneed's house for whiskey for the whiskies. Is that where you send them?
No.
Do you send them anywhere? Where do you send them?
They go to 8 p.m. EIGHP.
Oh, there you go.
PM.
Is it a website or something?
It's another guy, a good friend of mine, Ash Palmer, who is in the liquor business, who's got an absolute passion for whiskey. And he's actually just come back from a tour of Scotland, and he was one of my first Work for Whiskey clients actually, because I empowered him and set him free, and he then set 8 p.m. up because it's again.
Yeah.
I released him from this whole idea that he has to be doing a certain thing, and why don't you build a business about doing something that
you're passionate about,
love? And he is just smoking it.
That's the best.
Anyway.
On that note, shot buddy, that's been good, mate.
Yeah.
Flipping awesome chats. Thanks for tuning into this today's Powermoves podcast. Been good times here with Glenn and from Konnector, and have a good day, team. Adios.
Ciao.